that's what brings me the most joy, is to inspire and empower, right? And yeah, since I was a baby, I've always loved nature. I love being outside. In fact, they called me nature boy growing up. I think it was Napoleon Hill who said, whatever the mind of man or woman can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Those sound like fancy poetry, but they're much more than that. They are the truth of humanity. They're truth about what we can do in life. So I started playing with that truth. And then 4 years later, I achieved all the goals and was inducted in the National Hall of Fame. Not because I was the best wrestler in the room at the time. I was one of the worst. It's because I started creating a compelling future, which is what our whole business is all about.
So you became an All-American wrestler.
Yeah, 4-time All-American national champ.
Wow, that is huge. What a thing, man. That's quite an accomplishment.
I walked off the mat 20-some years ago, and I haven't looked back, but yes, it was a lot of fun. Now, when I want to experience something new or to manifest, I do a lot of meditation, multiple times a day. I take breaths and I center myself in here. I understand. I don't understand or overstand anybody. I understand myself. And then from that place of a peaceful mind, that's when the ideas come, and that's where the magic is. I had my first 2 daughters, and that's a life changer, right? As a parent, we look at the world not through our what's in it for me tomorrow mentality or kind of perspective, but I started asking questions. What's the world going to be like in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? What's the world of my grandkids going to be like? And that's when I learned permaculture. And that's when I also read Pilled, and I started learning what the real problem was and is. And I went through that period of pain and suffering, that period of cognitive dissonance where I had competing belief systems in my head, and they were causing some headaches. Govern mente literally means control the mind. And boom, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you look at the different systems and forms of govern mente. It's pervasive. It's all throughout our society, these layers. And then you go, how could these things happen? Well, you step back from it and say, well, of course, because the people who have always been the slave masters, and Goethe said, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. So when you look back and you see that the energy that these slave masters have used over time, their only job is to control the mind of the slaves. And so they have huge forums. They even have names for all these forums. And we look at these forums and say, oh, these guys are helping us out. No, they're not. It's time I learned permaculture, which is the science of regenerative, sustainable agriculture. This idea of sustainable isn't even, that's just a buzzword. We're talking about radical abundance that will be had by all. And we're a big part. All of us here are a big part of helping that come to fruition in our world. Permaculture is an energy science, right? It's a science. The word sustainable means a system that creates more energy than it takes to build and maintain. Right. So when you look at a natural system, a system like a food forest, for example, it is massively, in fact, it is infinitely abundant. We are about inspiring and empowering people to grow food. Right? And so when that's the foundation, it's so freeing, because somebody says, oh, what are your guarantees? What? There's no guarantees. Here's what we will guarantee. We'll guarantee our best effort. And here's why we will do that. Because I think that if we don't, then the world could suffer massively, which means I will suffer, which means my kids will suffer. And that's my primary motivation in life, is my kids. I want to create the foundation for them to have the best possible life they can have. So from this property, which we are developing to be completely off grid, there's no grid, there's no electric, no water, no anything from outside except for a road. And we're at the end of the road on this private lake with a runway. And we are developing an off-grid demonstration site with 10 homes, 10 home sites, and we're sold out. And each home site will have a different food forest landscape. and all energy systems. In fact, we've got amazing people coming to us with energy systems that are more efficient than anything out there. And we're going to be demonstrating all of it. We're building, the first thing we're building, Brian's house is pretty much done, is a studio so we can demonstrate what real freedom looks like. And this is what blows people's minds, because if I talk about off-grid, most people think of a cabin in the woods somewhere.
Yep.
No. We're doing luxury off-grid. What people have been led to believe is that growing food is either hard or it's going to create some type of problems. That's a lie, my friends. If you take the forest down the street from your house or in your backyard, if you live where there's a forest, who manages that forest? Nobody. Nature, God, source. The forest itself manages the forest. And so when a permaculture system, we build in diversity, right? The problem is monocultures and monocrops. The solution, and poisons. The solution is diversity in the zone that you are in. So a monoculture, like these plagues of locusts, they don't happen in a system that's diversified, because there might be one plant out of this 20 plants that particular bug eats. And that plant might get eaten, but it's not going to get eaten by a swarm or a plague. It's going to be eaten by 10 locusts or 10 armyworms or 10 beetles, right? It's the diversity that creates the strength. And the most important abundance, well, there's layers of importance, but the feeling you have when you're out there in nature growing food, there's something magical about that. We are basically putting it all together so we can demonstrate through this incredible network of social media influencers what it looks like and feels like to create on every level this freedom. And so I'm designing my life to be that person to the best of my ability, which is the limits of my capabilities, which is, by the way, changing rapidly every day in a good way, and to help inspire more people to take that first step, to go out and just stand barefoot in your yard and just look around, just observe, just lay in your grass if you have grass. We are on the path to creating radical abundance. The systems that have been holding us in chains and bondage for so long are failing, and we get to visualize and create and manifest an epic future, a future of abundance. So thank you all for all of your time and energy and love, and let's change the world.